There are two types of daters out there, and only two. There are dopamine daters and there are serotonin daters. And by the end of today's podcast, you're going to know which type you are and which type you want to lean into to set yourself up for success. Gary, I love this podcast. I love this topic. This is going to be a fun one, and you get to put on your kind of nerd glasses and really dive in.
I love it. This is your brain on love, right? You talk about where does love come from? It's like everyone's like, oh, it's the heart. Oh, it kind of, but not really. It's actually the brain. Like the brain's really where everything comes from. And so, yeah, we get to nerd out a little bit today, talk about some brain chemicals and how that impacts our approach to dating.
Do you remember that old drug commercial that's like, this is your brain and this is your brain on drugs? You remember that?
I do. Yes. I'm old.
I'm
from the 1900s. I remember.
I once created a video that is like, this is your brain and this is your brain on love. And it's like the egg cooking. It was such a flop. I don't think like the kids got it, but I loved it. It was one of those.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, I mean, our brain chemistry just goes haywire when we start to fall in love, and being aware of the neurochemistry that goes into it and where our tendencies might put us and push us in different directions, I think is so important. And understanding that is going to really change a lot of behavior for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, because I think, when it comes to love, everyone's out there chasing something. And it just kind of depends on what you're after. And some people, it's that they're constantly in search of that spark and the chemistry that leads to the passionate flame. And then other people are really looking for the slow, steady burn. Like one of our coaches calls it the campfire, right? That's slow, steady, keeps you warm at night. And I think, both work at different times. But if you're doing it wrong, you're going to put yourself up, set yourself up for a lot of misery.
I'm going to be willing to bet that is Coach Robin, who lives in Oregon and lives in the middle of the mountains. Is she the one who always uses that?
100%. She's always with the campfires.
She's like the coolest older woman. She's the coolest woman I've ever met. But she rides dirt bikes. She hangs out in the mountains. She's so cool, and I love that analogy. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's super badass. I love her.
Yeah. So walk us through it, dude.
So your brain. We all know what a brain is, right? But it's like this remarkable evolutionary masterpiece. It's like 3 pounds. It's about the size of your two fists. You put two fists together, it's about that size. And it runs on a complicated set of electro-neurochemical processes. And it literally dictates everything. The thoughts that you're having now, the fact you're able to listen to this podcast, think about it, have thoughts, have feelings, everything, literally everything, all due to your brain. And so the thing that's running in your brain that's creating a lot of this stuff and leading all these things to happen are neurotransmitters. It's little chemicals kind of floating around in there. Okay, you want the nerdy version?
Yeah, let's dive into it. Nerd out, bro.
So neurotransmitters are molecules released by neurons that send information to neighboring neurons. Fancy.
Yeah,
so
love it.
One neuron basically, lets go of a little neurotransmitter. It enters the synapse and it gets captured by the other neuron. And these neurons never actually touch, but it's just we're sending signals across, and that leads to activation, and so on and so on. And so in the brain, lots of different neurotransmitters, right? 2 of them are considered the quote unquote happy neurotransmitters, though they're both kind of happy in different ways, and both have an impact on dating. And so the first one that I think people probably think of the most, or the most common, is dopamine. Dopamine is the one, it's a high feeling. It's part of the brain's reward system. It's what gets triggered as you're cycling through TikTok videos, and it's like, ooh, another video. Ooh, another video.
I had to delete TikTok because I had too much dopamine overload. 100%.
It's what every social media thing is like. Why is it catchy? Because it's the endless scroll of dopamine hit. Dopamine hit, some other slightly different new kind of thing, something you like, a little of something new, and it's like constant. And so this happens in love and dating as well, right? So when we're dating, dopamine creates these feelings of euphoria, reward, newly infatuated, feelings with a person. It's all related. A friend of mine and colleague and my grad school advisor wrote a chapter about this, which I just have to read the title because it just sounds as nerdy as it is, which
Let's
is
go.
romantic love, pair bonding, and the dopaminergic reward system. Yeah, which basically just means dating feels good.
Yeah, it
That's
feels
what that
good.
boils down to.
It feels good. You come off of that date and you just got that little pep in your step, and that's all you can think about. And you get to work and you're just feeling good. You're ready to go. I totally relate to that. And it's so amazing. Jessica and I have been together for nearly 10 years. We're actually going to be celebrating that in about 12 days since we met. And it's like the first 3 years, I can remember a few different moments because it was so long ago. But like most of what I remember, sadly, is like the first 3 months. Because it's like where you're just flowing with dopamine the whole time. It's just flowing through your veins.
Yeah, the whole time you got a big dopey grin, like I can't believe this is real. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, totally, totally.
And that's, like why do people like falling in love? Why do we like a new relationship? Why is it exciting? The novelty of love. So it's dopamine, right? Constant dopamine, which great. That's one happy chemical. The second happy chemical that we have going on is serotonin. Serotonin is all about contentment and stability. It helps you feel emotionally balanced, calm, centered, socially connected. It's not TikTok, right? TikTok is not a serotonin thing. Serotonin's more like the cleverly crafted drama, well scripted. It's intentional. It's building, stable, consistent. It's not all over the place.
It's like that feeling you get after yoga. I don't know if you're a big yogi, but
I'm not.
is there's a feeling after yoga that I don't get anywhere else, or at least when I get out of the sauna every day. You just feel relaxed and at ease and at one and happy, but it's very different than like scroll, 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 scroll. Everything else that comes with dopamine.
Right. No, I think you mentioned the sauna. I think that is exactly right. It's so yoga. If it's that same feeling, it's just like a right, like that deep, authentic, just relaxation, which is nice. That's a really nice feeling. And so, what we're going to talk about today is something no one else is talking about, which is this idea of which type of dater are you? Are you more of a dopamine dater or are you more of a serotonin dater?
Right. Right.
Which one are you chasing?
Which one? And then I think we're going to dive into which one will lead you to a long-term result.
Yeah. There's pluses and minuses of each, but there's one that we want to err on the side of one of them.
I know which type I am, and I think we can all guess, but I think we'll get to that towards the end.
All right.
I'm curious what type you are. It's interesting. Well, I don't know if you can go back to 60
I think
years.
I've evolved. I mean, I've definitely evolved. It wasn't always one way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump into the first one, which is the dopamine. There are 5 signs that you're a dopamine dater. I mean, the first one I would just venture to say is that you are just addicted to the apps. I mean, or at least overdoing it. There's something that comes. These apps are literally designed to flood your dopamine center. I mean, and I see it with a lot of clients. They've never used online dating. They download a few of the apps. It's just swipe left, swipe right all day long. It's so exciting. And it just, again, it's very similar to TikTok, where it just draws you in and it tricks your brain in many ways to believing that you're like almost dating all these people at once. It just floods.
Yeah. Look at all the options.
Right.
Right. And it's, I think one of the big problems with this particular aspect of it is it leads you to the sense of like, I want as many options as possible. I'm going to go on 4 different apps. I'm going to go on 3 different things. I just more. And it's counterproductive in many ways, right? Because what happens is you get addicted to these apps, and we'll see this with clients too. They're on it all day. Every spare moment, check. And it makes this dating thing like this obsession, and it's not necessarily the most productive way to date. And then the one other thing that happens a lot with this is you get into this mindset with all these options that seemingly are out there in a over optimization or maximization mindset where it's, oh, this one's just a little bit better. What if there's somebody just a little bit better? Like, should I go in search of that thing? Right. And that's actually, you want to be miserable for the rest of your life? Constantly look for something just a little bit better. Totally.
It also, I would just say, to add to that, I've seen it with some clients. I don't know if you've seen this, where they've been using the apps for about a week and they're really excited about it. But then week two, they come on and they start working with us and they kind of look like a cokehead who's been on a bender for a week. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just like so dopamine deprived at this point. They're just like, oh, this is so exhausting. Hey man, chill. Like you probably shouldn't use those types of drugs. Like let's use it for what it is. It's a tool to attract people. It's not, it's not designed to just be all day long. There's big bags under their eyes. And it's like I think we're not using this correctly.
Yeah, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, and so
Yeah.
you can overdo it. And I will see those clients, and it's like, what should I do? Like this is too much. It's like, wait, you should be on these apps at certain times during the day. Like you basically set aside, like here's a half an hour at this time. And it's not an all day thing because you're going to just get obsessed. And like I said, it's counterproductive.
And turn off notifications. Just a side
Yes.
tip. Turn off notifications. Set aside 30 minutes a day. You don't need to get dinged every time a guy likes you or messages you all throughout the day. Again, once again, it's a little hit of dopamine every time you get a message. Even if you don't like the guy, it's that little ping of validation.
Yeah, and I think, so dopamine daters like a lot of those feelings. And so they're going to be a little bit more likely to be sucked into the dating app kind of thing. The other thing, a dopamine dater, so number 2 here is dopamine daters are going to be all about the romantic grand gestures. They like the elaborate, exciting dates. They like the big moves. They love this idea of dating that's sort of like The Bachelor, a little bit of reality TV. These dopamine types of daters are also a little bit more likely to fall for the love bombing, right? Oh my gosh, you're the most amazing person I've ever met. I love you. And I don't say that all the time, but I say it to you and I've only known you an hour, but I love you. And they're like, oh, me? Not good.
Totally. Which I think leads really well into the third one, which is just the constant need for validation, And this is something early in my 20s, I very much so fell into this trap because I frankly didn't get much validation throughout college from women. And so that was what I was seeking the most, is just constant affirmation, not just from one woman, but from multiple partners, because you get affirmation one day and then it kind of slowly diminishes. And the next day you're looking for your next hit. Prioritizing quantity over quality, wanting to talk to many, many people, because the more people that give you that validation that you're great, that you're attractive, that you're charismatic, that you're interesting, oh my God, it feeds your dopamine soul, right? It's just feeding this. But I think at the end of the day, once again, it's an endless practice. There is no end there. There's no goal where you're going to finally be like, I'm fulfilled. I'm now fully validated. Right? It just doesn't come.
Right. And I think one of the things that's especially likely to happen in terms of needing the validation and kind of falling for it is just being more likely to fall for physical flattery, which is like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. It's like,
oh, Gary.
Me? Your hair is stunning. You are stunning. You are drop dead gorgeous. And don't get me wrong. Those are all really nice things, and we should like to hear those things. It'd be unnatural if you did not like to hear those things. Yeah. But if you're more of the dopamine dater type, you're going to hear those things, and it's just you're going to go overboard, right? You're going to kind of take that a little too far. You're going to be overly impressed by that. And just remember, that's like the easiest stuff for guys to do, to say, to show affection. Like, let's make them work a little harder than just saying some nice things about our physical features.
And worse, if you don't get it, then you feel deprived.
Right.
If that's what you're seeking. If that's what you're always seeking, is those little hits of affirmation. Oh, you're so beautiful. Well, he said that the last 2 times I saw him, but he didn't say it this time.
Oh, good
What
point.
about my hair doesn't he like?
Great point. No, yes. Every other time we've been together, he mentioned my manicure. Why didn't he this time? He must not like me anymore. No.
Yeah. No.
So I think another way that you can fall into this dopamine dating is idealizing new partners. Like the falling in love fast, but like not just fast, but your new partner he's the most magical soulmate you've ever encountered, right? You put new dates on a pedestal And you just kind of need everything to be perfect, because when things are perfect, it feels really good. And like that's that dopamine kicking in. The downside of this, of course, is when the flaws inevitably emerge because nobody's perfect, you start like, oh gosh, they're not really that great. They're not as great and amazing as I thought they were. They must not be my person. And so I think that leads very easily to the fifth characteristic of a dopamine dater, which is just frequent partner switching.
Right.
Constantly looking for upgrades, trying to find the next best thing, tinkering, playing around, looking for something just a little bit better. Never being fully satisfied, because again, you're just chasing that rush, that feel of that reward.
It's like a drug. I mean, it is a drug. You're chasing that next hit over and over and over again. And I will now tell everyone, if anyone was curious, I was the biggest dopamine dater ever. It was just a part of my being. I thought that that was the way to love, is to just chase it, more, 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 more. And I'm glad that I did that, because that is what eventually led me here, starting Love Strategies and everything that we're doing here. I think it was a wonderful thing because it gave me a lot of experience with dating, but it also was so unwise. It was so unwise of me, where I can think of a number of connections where the moment it started to wear off, it was just like, nope, this person's not right for me. Clearly it's not lasting. Oh my God, I need to go off and find someone new, only to just repeat the cycle over and over again. Luckily I got to a point after like 4 cycles of that to be like, well, maybe, just maybe, that's not possible. Interesting. Interesting.
4 times, huh? That was it.
Yeah.
That's all it took.
Yeah. Well, it's probably more than that, if I'm being honest. Yeah. It
I was
was
gonna
a
say
lot.
4 times sounds, on one hand, sounds like a lot, but I definitely know of people. It's been they take 10 laps before they really fully figure it out. Right? It can take a long time.
Oh, we have clients in their 70s who are still doing this.
Yes.
It's just over and over and over again. And for whatever reason, don't recognize that as a pattern, because I think when we're single for long enough, let's give it 6 months to a year, you kind of forget what a long-term relationship really is like. You start to once again create this fiction in your brain that this will last forever. You just kind of forget, because dating is so dopamine heavy. It's just hit after hit after hit. And you just want more of it, more of it. And so that's something we remind our clients of constantly, is when you're in a new relationship, that high will go away. You will go into a cool down period, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That is where the love starts to actually build the true deep bond between the two of you.
And to be clear, it goes away for everyone.
Yes.
Right? It's not a bad sign. It's like, oh gosh, this is going away. This must mean that we're flawed and wrong and horrible for it. No, no. It just means you're human, because we adapt to everything. Right? We just get used to things. And so, why is dopamine dating a problem? Well, first off, it's all we see in media. Right? Everything you see in songs, movies, TikTok video, like it's all like this amazingness of the fun parts of love. Great.
Yeah.
The problem though is, if you consistently date, and as Adam kind of already alluded to, in this dopamine dating kind of way, you become very first date focused, where you put a ton of emphasis on those initial sparks, the initial chemistry. How much are they flattering me? How much are they paying attention to me? Are they amazing? Can I make them amazing? Can I feel like they're amazing? And how long can I make that last? And the answer is you can't. And so you're constantly focused on today, the next date, this weekend, without really looking at the big long-term picture. Is this feeling sustainable? Honestly, no. Like, it's not sustainable. In that first like butterfly kind of feeling you get, it's not going to last forever. And so this approach encourages lots of different, very superficial relationships without ever getting to the deep stuff that's actually going to lead to long-term fulfillment.
So, Gary, you're telling us that the media and movies is not aligned with reality? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I know. Shocking revelation.
They need to make a movie of you come home and your partner farts on the couch and they're a little sick and you make them soup and then you go to bed early. Like, what a movie. What a movie.
What an insight into your world. That's what I just.
My wife never farts.
I was thinking it was you eating the soup, but okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I won't go there. Okay. Take us to serotonin.
Yeah, let's move on.
Please
As fast as
move on
possible.
before my wife kills
Let's
me after
clear the
reading
air and
comments.
move on.
Yeah, please, God. I'm about to
So
be in the
5
doghouse.
signs you might be a serotonin dater, right? So we said there's dopamine, there's serotonin. Serotonin is the more calm, soothing kind of thing. And so if you're a serotonin dater, you're patient. You're willing to take things slow. You're open to this idea of letting your connection grow. You put in time to build something long term, fulfilling. It's not 0 to 100. It's a little bit every day. Like we're gonna get closer. We're gonna get a little, and we're gonna build, and it's gonna accumulate, and it's gonna compound over time. And so, long term fulfillment instead of a short term fling. Very, very patient.
Absolutely. Which I think leads well into the second one, which is just a focus on emotional connection. You know, typical serotonin daters are the types of people who will say, most of the people I've ever dated were friends for a long period of time first. We had a great emotional connection. We had a great bond. And then one day I was like, I'm actually really attracted to this guy. And that seems to be a pattern for them because they very much so favor emotional intimacy over physical intimacy. Not to say both aren't incredibly important in a relationship. It's just what comes first, which one is important and critical to a relationship. Dopamine daters, it's all about the physical first. It's all about that instant chemistry, instant attraction. Whereas again, the serotonin daters are like, well, yes, that is important, but I realize that grows. And what I really want to focus on is building that bond with a person where I feel just like connected at one. I feel like I can trust this human being.
And I think what happens when you really focus on emotional connection versus other things is it just lends itself to emotional stability. There's not going to be many highs, not as many lows, or at least the highs aren't going to be as high and the lows aren't going to be as low, right? There's just less drama and less turmoil. You get into arguments and you, instead of escalating, I mean, each person just takes their turn heightening. It's both of you are working to de-escalate, actually problem solve and work through problems instead of turning it into something bigger. Because it's not all about heightened emotions. It's like, no. This is a misunderstanding. Let's make a connection here and move on constructively versus, the tumultuous approach to relationships.
Right.
And so, I think the other thing a serotonin dater is really going to look for in terms of stability is they're going to be really appreciative of small gestures, right? We said the dopamine dater is going to be more into like the love bomby, bachelor-esque kind of big grand gestures to be impressed. The serotonin dater is like, how do you show up on a regular basis? What's your day-to-day style like? Are you kind on a regular basis? Are you interested in me? Are you respectful? Are you supportive? Like, do you make, you wake up and like you surprise me by making coffee? Do you make my side of the bed? Do you do like just little things throughout the day to show that you care and you love me? This is very much rooted in, solid expectations for just like, not everybody's going to have an A plus perfect 100% day, right? And so we're not looking for constant A plus 100%. We're looking for, is my partner doing their best that day to show up in the relationship? Some days they're going to have 20 out of 100. Some days they're going to have 80 out of 100. But are they showing up as much as they can? And so it's consistency on a daily basis, not when can you show off, right?
This reminds me of a client who I would venture to be as much more of a serotonin dater than a dopamine dater based on what she told me. But she was telling me that there's a guy that she's been dating. She's really excited about it. He's an incredible guy. But she once told him on a date, like one of their first dates, that she loves the Rolling Stones. She's just like really into the Rolling Stones. It's just whatever. So he came and picked her up on like the fifth or sixth date, and she gets in the car and the Rolling Stones are playing. And it's like this small little cute thing, but she appreciated that. She's like, and again, it's nothing grand. He didn't have to take her backstage to the Rolling Stones, which, by the way, I saw the Rolling Stones last year. It was pretty epic. but maybe they're a little past their prime, so you don't have to go to concerts. But it's just one of those moments where it's just sweet, and clearly he's a thoughtful guy. That's it. He's a thoughtful guy, and he wants to make sure that she feels welcome and safe, and that he's listening.
Yeah. And it comes down to also with a serotonin dater, which is number 4, they care more about quality time than quantity, right? Yeah. And so if you're a serotonin dater, you're not counting the number of texts or counting the number of words in the text or the number of minutes between the texts or the number of hours or days you get to spend together. You're not tabulating and keeping score about things. It's all about the quality of the time you get to spend together. Like, do you and your partner enjoy quiet moments together? Is it just as simple as enjoying the time you have together while you're cooking dinner or right. taking a walk together? And so those kinds of things matter more than just, we got to see each other 5 days this week. We went on 6 dates since the last. It's like, that's more of a dopamine approach to things where you're counting and trying to like scorecard yourself about how well you're doing. Serotonin, it's just like, no, I want this to be simple. And there's nothing about keeping score that's simple.
Right. Which I think leads well to the final one, which is just being comfortable in a routine with your partner. Like a dopamine dater needs to go on wild new adventures all the time with the person that they're dating or even the person they're married to, just to keep the spark alive. And I'm not against doing any of those things. In fact, that's a lot of, again, I'm kind of a more dopamine focused person, but I will say a serotonin dater really cherishes the routine, like those regular date nights, not where you're going to the fancy, crazy restaurant. You might just be ordering pizza, sitting on the couch with a bottle of wine and watching Netflix, right?
Guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
I'm with you too. Every day that this hair grays, like the more I like Netflix, 100%, and just sitting on the couch. But I think there's just a value in consistency and reliability over this constant novelty, just chasing the novelty over and over and over again. Because that can be hard to keep up with in a relationship.
Particularly if you're planning on having this relationship past a year, 2 years. And most of our clients, they're not just looking for a short-term boyfriend. They're looking for their long-term, forever partner. And so forever's a long time. And so how do you keep things going strong for a long time? You build a solid foundation. And a lot of these serotonin dating practices are building that solid foundation. And so we said one of these is going to be better, dopamine or serotonin. And I think, if you've made it this far in the podcast, you see where this has been going, which is serotonin dating is preferable. Because where dopamine daters have a first date focus, the serotonin daters have a forever focus. They're looking for what's sustainable. What can we keep going? What's less likely to fizzle out? You're prioritizing stability and comfort and long-term commitment. That's the serotonin way. And so, that's going to lead to more stable, satisfying relationships in the long run. Now, I do think hearing all of that, I'm sure there's somebody listening to this where it's like, I don't want to be bored. Don't be boring. I'm not saying stability has to be boring, right? But I think in terms of what's the easier thing to add into your relationship if you don't have it, it's much easier to sprinkle in novelty and excitement and some of those dopamine types of experiences in your otherwise stable, rewarding, satisfying, fulfilling relationship. That's a lot easier. If you are a dopamine kind of relationship, you can't just sprinkle in the stability. That's not something you can just microdose in there and be like, oh, if I just give a little bit of this stability, then we're all going to be magically fine. It just doesn't work that way. And so It comes down to, what do you want? Honestly, both. We always want both. We always want it all. Great, fine, perfect. But it's about priorities. And priorities in this case is prioritize the serotonin dating. As Adam described the Friday night with the pizza and the Netflix and the bottle, that's literally my marriage. Like that's what every Friday night is almost always the same thing. It's the one night a week I don't work and it's like 5 o'clock hits. We kind of do the same thing all the time. Love it. But we also on occasion go to New York City to go to dinner. We go do different things. Not every weekend because we don't have that need, but it's, like adding in those new exciting experiences, self-expanding experiences, super important.
You're wild, Gary. Going to the club, New York City. Let's go. Boom. I can just imagine. Exactly. And I'll just say a final note on dopamine in general, because this is something that, as I've alluded to throughout this, I am a very like love extreme sports, love fast new things, love to travel, new experiences, go, 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 go. But being aware and intentional of your dopamine throughout the week and throughout the month, even outside of dating, is very important. Easy ways to just do this: keep your phone on do not disturb, remove all notifications, remove anything in your life that is just constantly triggering dopamine. Even when I'm working, like we have a Slack channel here at work where there's a lot going on. You know, we have 20 employees, there's a constant movement and things and fun things all the time. Removal. So anything that is just constantly spiking your dopamine over and over and over again, and you're finding yourself almost addicted to it, being intentional about actually removing those things from your life outside of dating will also give you the ability to control it while you're dating. So something that's been super helpful for me, and I highly recommend it for anyone who's listening to this.